transferring our consciousness into higher brains attached to our divine blueprint is the discussion for today. If we want to evolve and move to higher planetary civilizations and expand our consciousness into a more refined higher being, we have to cooperate with our divine blueprint. I have many videos on the divine blueprint and also many videos on transferring your consciousness, but we're going to continue this discussion today. What we need to focus on is a partnership with our divine blueprint where our consciousness is attached, because consciousness is multidimensional, because the blueprint is multidimensional, and it is not anchored or dwells solely and only in a brain. It uses the brain here on Earth through our electromagnetic system and our DNA, things like that. There are patterns. If you remember, I've been training as a pattern keeper, and I've explained our divine blueprint. When we are born, our higher consciousness and our divine blueprint and our higher guides on our divine blueprint interject patterns into our divine blueprint that will facilitate our map for this life. We have a map, we have a guidance system, we have a road map, and we have guides within our divine blueprint to accomplish certain things using this body and this brain and the reality that we are in. So we have to learn to cooperate with the reality we are in and the brain that we have, and learn how to use them in a masterful way. So the divine blueprint issues forth various experiences in our life. It has a plan of certain experiences. These things are what you might say, they are destined. They are set up to experience. And then we have our life environment around us, which affects our patterns of thinking and causes us to have indoctrination and belief systems that also are trying to work or influence the divine blueprint patterns that are specific for you. And so if we cooperate with the chaos of the world, which most people do, then we are not able to expand our consciousness and use our brains that we have now, use our brains to their highest capacity, and be able to become an advanced human. This ability to work in cooperation with your divine blueprint is designed to expand your consciousness, use your brain to its highest ability through experiences here in this reality. So we have to embrace every experience we have. It is teaching us certain things, and we are to learn from those things it's teaching us. So in this reality, there is great contrast, and because of the density here and the body that we are now functioning in, its basic imprints at a very basic pattern is survival. And so we are learning to work with these huge survival instincts that this animal body has. And we are learning to take these survival instincts, and we are letting the idea of the meditation and the sacred fire. I have many videos on the sacred fire, but the idea of anchoring this sacred fire, which comes directly from incorruptible divine blueprint consciousness, is to allow our higher consciousness to take control over our animal instincts. Now once we do that, we now can develop and master our reality and expand our consciousness into the ability to, when we move from here, we can go into higher brains, higher bodies, that the brain or intelligent function, that is the patterns that are inserted in those realities, such as fourth and fifth density and higher, the patterns that are inserted in that divine blueprint for that reality are more advanced and more expanded. So we need to bring our consciousness in this lifetime up to the highest level we can, an advanced human consciousness. And that only happens when we cooperate with the divine blueprint. When we are not in alignment with our soul, the soul is the container and we are the avatar. But when we are not in alignment with our divine blueprint, then we create a lot of unnecessary trauma for ourselves. But even in creating trauma, because believe it or not, in your divine blueprint programming for this lifetime, there are challenges put in there. There are crossroads in your life that are deliberately put there so that you can evaluate, expand, and grow. Because if you do not have challenges, your consciousness can't grow. Consciousness needs a way to experience reality, and it needs a way to not just keep on a neutral wave where it's not growing very much. It needs to have these spikes where either something is very challenging or something is very expanding, going up in consciousness. In other words, some great fulfillment of your desires or some crash and burn experience. These highs and lows, even if we sort of self-generated them from our indoctrination here, they are always used by the divine blueprint to fulfill your highest purpose and to fulfill your destiny to expand into a higher consciousness or a higher body of light. So when you have things that happen to you in life that are devastating or hard to deal with, that is not the time to abandon your spirituality, to abandon your divine blueprint. Even though you may not be in total alignment with it, that is the time when you are to get very still, increase your meditation, and work with the sacred fire to cleanse and purify yourself so that you can learn to calm down the monkey mind and your emotions. Now, in my 7 levels of consciousness, we have videos on that. There are 7 spiritual evolutionary consciousness growing on this planet. Mostly I'm talking now about disciple level, sort of the entry out of aspirant, since most of humanity is in aspirant and below. When you begin to move into disciple level, you begin to expand your curiosity. You move out of traditional belief systems, traditional ways of doing things, and you start to look at new pathways, new ideas. And that early disciple level is all about exploring ideas and information. Now, this is when the brain is really beginning to have expanded experiences, because now the brain is now working, and the animal ego is now working in alignment with divine blueprint, and the divine blueprint is now sending an activation or a wake-up call to you that it's time to leave those old indoctrinations. It's time to go look over here and look over there, read about this, learn about that. And so the beginning disciple is learning everything. It's like a sponge. And I mean, it would have a hard time sitting through 5 minutes of this video, because early disciples just click on everything and keep going and read half a page or read a half a book, and they haven't learned the discipline yet of their mind, because they are in this expansion mode that is so seductive and so much desired. So here's one of those things where a desire, because you were feeling limited, indoctrinated, and imprisoned, and suddenly you have a breakout, and now it's like a breath of fresh air. It's a rise in growth, and this rise in growth could be a positive spike instead of like something where you have a big failure. This is a positive spike where now you feel like you've broken out and you found new teachings, new ideas, new ways to look at things, new sciences, new technologies, new engineering. Everything that's new like that is a positive growth spurt. It's designed to expand your consciousness. And so we always are growing up like that when we have these growth spurts. But at some point, then you have to plateau that out in disciple level. In other words, you have to assimilate what you have been learning, and you have to master what you've been learning. And one of the things that takes a beginner disciple into an advanced disciple is that now you are learning, you've learned a lot in the world, and you have tested a lot of different belief systems, and you are beginning to settle down from that addictive curiosity. And most people that I see, especially that come to this YouTube channel, they are all sort of addicted to curiosity. And once they get their sort of short-term addiction of information, they move on to the next thing. So those kind of disciples, as I've said in earlier videos, will more than likely go into the astral worlds after death, as where most of humanity goes when they die. They leave and go to the astral worlds, attached to this body, attached to this earth, attached to the programs of this earth, such as your family and your identity that you had while you lived here. As I've said before, in the astral world, you keep living that identity. Excuse me. And so what we are wanting to do when we move into advanced disciple is we want to be able to settle down our innate attachment to glamour and our addiction to curiosity, and we want to settle down in a plateau that builds a fundamental set of ideas. And in advanced disciple, you are learning to meditate every single day, just like you would eat or breathe. It's as important. You meditate every single day. You are learning to quiet your monkey mind. You are learning to still your emotions. And you are learning to build a set of principles. And advanced disciples, I have said in previous videos, will be able to go to extraterrestrial worlds of the fourth density, especially in this great migration that's coming. Advanced disciples are going into Star Trek type worlds. Because in the migration, I want you to understand this is not a very large group. At the end of every time cycle, there is a group that is capable of moving into higher civilizations, higher worlds of light. So this great migration that's happening now for the next 200 years will not be a lot of people. It will be advanced disciple initiate masters. And the advanced disciple, the reason we have this great migration right now is because this is the first time in our history that we have been able to embrace the idea of living on other planets, and not just our human self going and landing on the moon or Mars, but I'm saying we are embracing that there are extraterrestrials, that there are life forms off our planet and on other planets, and that these life forms are capable of visiting us and interacting with us, and we are capable of going to them, just as they're capable of coming to us. This concept has not been here in our time cycle. So we are now in a unique period of our time cycle where we have the brain capability and the ability to expand our consciousness to understand that we transfer our consciousness, that we have the ability to drop. Bodies are abundant in the universe. I've said this over and over. Your divine blueprint can generate a body like that. And so what we are doing here is we are learning that when we drop this body, our consciousness is transferred to a new body. And you can't go where you haven't at least experienced some level of that next level body. If you don't expand your consciousness, you will stay in third density. You will stay in a sort of an animal-human form, either in a new, mostly right now when we're dying, 99% of the people are going into the astral worlds. And in the astral worlds, they're learning to expand their consciousness there, if they are open to the idea of not having their own identity so much and not being so addicted or attached to things. And they can start to be introduced to other life forms, and they're not freaking out because of some other life form. I mean, there's a lot of growth that goes on in the astral worlds. But now we can bypass the astral worlds. We are going to have extraterrestrials come and contact us. So you will be getting dreams and you will be getting encounters with certain extraterrestrials that have looked at your divine blueprint. They see your patterns. They've watched your life. They see how you handle the highs and lows. If you are expanding your growth, if you are assimilating new ideas, excuse me, wintertime in the heater. If you are expanding new ideas and you are adopting new ideas, now you are someone that these extraterrestrial civilizations can work with. They can start telepathically communicating with you what it would be like to be one of them, to be in their reality, to know what their worlds are, and to understand what their brain functions or the kind of intelligent function that's created in their body is capable of doing. So an advanced disciple has quieted down the mind enough and stilled the emotions enough that it is able to work with positive, advanced fourth density ETs. And so now these positive ETs from fourth density are able to work with you because you have stilled the indoctrination of the world. You've learned to kind of quiet that down now, and you can start to hear them and understand more about their reality. And I've said before, after you leave disciple, you move into initiate level. Initiate level is the battle-scarred warrior. The people in initiate level do have the ability to move into fifth density worlds. These worlds are very advanced. They also have a collective consciousness as well as a singular consciousness. And I've told you in other videos about my smart body. When I have transferred my consciousness into this fifth density body, these smart bodies, the intelligent consciousness, the ability of the intelligence in that density is 1,000 times greater than us, or maybe even tens of thousands of times greater than us. And when I transfer my consciousness into my fifth density body, my smart body, I am only perceiving a small portion of this very expanded, brilliant, highly evolved consciousness. And the bodies that it is using in fifth density, what you might call the brain functions and the functions that are used to perceive its reality. It could be senses. If it has patterns in there that are functioning with a DNA idea, or if it has patterns that are functioning with a brain, their functioning systems are extremely advanced. So for an initiate to be able to even temporarily get experience that level of consciousness, they have to have already had years of meditation and already have quieted the monkey mind and stilled the emotions. This is why there's so few that go into initiate level, and I only know a small handful of people right now on the planet. And master level is even smaller than that. It can be done, though, as this library is designed for future generations. As these New Age beginner disciples begin to move into advanced disciple, and these advanced disciples now begin to be more dominant than the noisy New Age disciples, those advanced disciples will be able to easily move into initiate level. Initiate level always has these dark nights of the soul, and you know that word is thrown around a lot, but dark nights of the soul always have direct dark force encounters. You have to go through the valley of the shadow of death. You have to go through the dark in order to advance through initiate level. And it's always surrounded by outer problems that even tribal level and aspirant level and disciple, all levels of humanity deal with death, diseases, loss of wages or loss of the ability to survival instincts. All those are part of the animal world. But in initiate level, the dark nights of the soul have several of those things happening around them that begin to challenge their belief systems and challenge where they're going to focus, what is true and what's not true. And as they begin to break down through these challenges, this opens up a doorway to the more dark lords of light to come in and exacerbate the situation or amplify the situation with direct contact. With direct, I mean manifesting in your house like I had. I had them show up in my house. I've had them bring possessed people my way, and there are a lot of people walking around in the world that are possessed. So then you have this challenge of, not only do you have the physical world challenge, but you have the challenge, like Paul said in the New Testament, that we do not fight against flesh and blood, we fight against the principalities of the air. In other words, there are these forces, these forces around us, these lords of light, these consciousnesses around us that are great challengers. They challenge us, and they challenge us hard. And if you succumb and you break under the challenge, then you don't grow through that challenging part of initiate level to master initiate level. You stay there until you're able to grow through that challenge. And when we go, I've talked about the expanded part where the aspirant finally breaks out of the indoctrination and old programming and is so excited to learn everything new it possibly can. These are the high expansions. The dark nights of the soul, these are the low expansions. And when we have these really low points, even if it's not the initiate level with the dark forces, just low points in general, that is the most critical time to align with your divine blueprint. Your divine blueprint and your higher consciousness beings that live on your divine blueprint have a plan how you can expand and grow and rise from the ashes of that dark experience. And when you rise from the ashes instead of crumbling, when you rise up from that, now you have expanded again even more your brain's function and your consciousness. And so when we have these peaks and valleys, these are all expansions that your divine blueprint is wanting you to experience here, because as I said, the key period right now is, for the first time in history, we are able to actually believe that we are capable of going somewhere besides Earth and not in this body. I mean, that may happen in the future, we take our bodies to Mars, but I'm saying we are beginning to understand there are life forms in other realities, other densities, other planets, and we are able now to embrace the idea that our consciousness can be transferred into those bodies, which I've said in many videos. There are extraterrestrials who know how to take your consciousness when you die, and they either use your astral body, or they have a field of containment, or now I'm teaching about the sphere, the sacred fire sphere. Your consciousness is in your sphere when you die or drop your body. That sphere can be taken inside a larger sphere being for fifth density, or that consciousness inside your sphere can be transferred to a fourth density group that can then transfer that consciousness into a body. And these fourth density beings, they have little outposts or communities inside inner Earth. They also have them underneath the water, underneath the oceans. They have spaceships here as well. They come and go from their frequency. And you will be able to transfer your consciousness directly into one of those bodies. You do not have to do what they do here on Earth, as in being born as a baby and start all over again and forget who you are. This idea is a fallen reincarnation concept. In other worlds of light, fourth density and fifth density, you do not have to give birth to babies where you are then coming into a baby form. There are planets, yes, that do birth life, and but in the fifth density in particular, those bodies, those new bodies that are created, are already very advanced bodies with very advanced brains, so that when the consciousness is transferred into those bodies, they may be more like an adolescent experience. So when you transfer your consciousness, not so much in fourth density, if you're an advanced disciple or even a beginner initiate, you should be able to transfer your consciousness to fourth density bodies on ships and inner Earth and places like that pretty easily, because we are already very well integrated with Star Trek worlds. In fifth density, you would be transferring your consciousness into a body that would be more like an adolescent. But it is nothing like our adolescents, which know nothing. Teenagers in their 20s, people in their 20s, I mean, really, they don't know anything about life. These transfers of consciousness, you could say, have 75 to 100 years worth of knowledge, let's say, as an example, compared to the other beings on that planet, which could have, 800, 1,000, 2,000 years worth of knowledge. But those consciousnesses, even at the immediate transfer, may not be as advanced as the elders on that planet, but those transfers of consciousness into fifth density, those bodies are so far advanced from us that most people here would not be able to transfer into them. So this library is about teaching you how to get your consciousness to a place where it is easily able to transfer into fourth density Star Trek worlds or into higher densities of fifth density, which is physical planetary beings, and even there will be a few that will transfer into star beings, and those are sixth density. And so for more information on all of that, I have a huge library. You can listen to many, many videos there, and post your questions if you like. I also have a Patreon group if you're serious and you're not just a dabbling New Ager and you want to settle down and start working on your meditation, controlling monkey mind, disciplining your emotions. My Patreon group is a great place for me to talk to you one-on-one. And so I'll see you then, friends, in the next video. Thank you.